So in patch 2.7.0, Rathma got a significant rework, and of course it's been our quest to find the best builds for you guys. And in this video, we're going to talk about the torment farming build you'll want to use for the new Rathma setup coming in season 23. And it's called the Dead Storm. So let's get into it. Now, as always, a caveat is in the gameplay above, you'll see some, Torment 16 speed farms. These are first try pulls. This is not like, ooh, I'm fishing for cemetery or plague lands or anything weird. Just literally grinding some rifts, and all intelligence paragon is removed. Now the gear, like I said in the last video, it's Rathma, so it's gear we've had for a long time. I don't have the time to just like refarm brand new gear, so it's some of it's augmented, nothing crazy augment wise, but really easy to put together. However, I do want to mention before we really dive deep into this that Rathma will not be a great torment farming build. I would not actually recommend using Rathma for torment farming if you're really trying to be efficient. If you're looking for something new and fresh, this is definitely going to be that. Mobs get sucked into you. They just walk. You literally just casually walk through the rift, and stuff that touches you just dies, right? So it is a very interesting playstyle. It's a bit more of a lazy playstyle, which I know a lot of you guys enjoy. But something like the mages, something like pestilence, something like even Nova will be quite better for torment farming. Now, of course, join our Discord for the latest up-to-date builds. We have an entire section in the Discord channel called #NecroGuides, and that is with every updated build guide we've ever made for every season. So make sure you join the Discord if you want those. But yeah, let's talk about it. So Rathma got a rework, as you guys know. It's pretty fun for GR speed farming. If you didn't see the last video, you should definitely check it out. We know that this is the starting set in season 23, so we really have to have a torment farming setup regardless of what we decide to go with eventually. And so that's what we sat down to kind of figure out, is what's the best way to farm torments. And what we found was it was using what was called the Army of the Dead, Dead Storm, hence the name. And you basically get this aura of blood and death and decay around you, and you just walk through the rift. Everything gets sucked in through Brig's Wrath, and as soon as it gets sucked in, it just dies to your Army of the Dead. And it's really as basic as that. And so the goal of this entire setup is to maximize cooldown reduction, because Army of the Dead is on a very long cooldown. So it does last 5 seconds, so you do not need to recast it. I would actually recommend you do not recast it more than once every 5 seconds. It doesn't stack. So just keep that aura up and just walk through the rift and kill everything you possibly can. It's really as easy as that. So how does this all work? So Rathma, you get cooldown reduction each time your minions hit. So make sure your permanent minions are up all the time, which is command skeletons. You get 7 of those guys, and you'll want to make sure as soon as you enter a rift, you get your 10 revive minions going as well, because that's 17 minions in total, which is 8,500% damage. Now, we won't be getting the full 6-piece 9,000% because we're not going to run a golem in this setup. You don't really even need the damage. The Army of the Dead will kill plenty fast without a lot of the damage modifiers that we're used to. It's also important to get those minions up as fast as you can, those revive minions up as fast as you can, to get the 4-piece mitigation going. But you'll find it's pretty tanky. We're going to use bone armor as well, so quite a bit of mitigation happening here on top of Cats and Crimsons. We're also going to be using the Jessith to buff up our damage. Jessith and Rathma will go together like peas and carrots. There's probably never going to be a Rathma build that doesn't run Jessith, because you are kind of locked into command skeletons, and Jessith has damage with command skeletons. So this is going to be the play pretty much in every Rathma build you'll see out there. We're using Captain Crimsons again, because again we are a high cooldown build, so having that 20% on the 2-piece, the cooldown reduction, and then on top of that, getting more damage for the amount of cooldown reduction that we have is pretty big. We're also going to use squirts to buff up our damage even more. You'll notice that you will not have this up 100% of the time. You will take damage. You won't take a lot of damage, and it's why it's easier to run in this setup. But the buff will drop pretty frequently, so don't freak out. If you get 1 to 5 stacks, you're still getting more damage than you would have without it. Of course, we're using the bonds to get more Army of the Dead damage, up to 100% increased damage. And we're actually not even really going to go for triple bonus here. There are some things, and we'll talk about that when we get into the skills. But, we use Crisbin, that 100% damage bonus against mobs that are CC'd. So if they're within range of you, they're going to get CC'd through Bane of the Trapped, and they'll get sucked into you. So they will get CC'd through Bane of the Trapped. Brig's Wrath makes it so everything that gets touched by your aura, it gets basically sucked into you, because we are using Aura of Frailty, which is just basically a radius around us for our aura frailty, and anything that gets touched by that aura gets sucked into us. And then what really makes this possible is this aura keeps growing because we are using the avarice band on the follower. If you guys don't know, in patch 2.7.0 they've added the ability for followers to emanate legendary abilities, and one of the things that they can emanate is the avarice band. So each time we pick up gold, our pickup radius is increased by 1 yard for 10 seconds, stacking up to 30 times. So this thing will be up 100% of the time, so you'll get a much bigger circle of the aura frailty, which means more mobs get sucked in, which means, you know, more death. And while we're on the subject of our follower, you want to make sure you run the canes. Canes, you know, GR keys are the most important currency in Diablo 3. I don't care what anybody says. You can min-max to try to fit in Sage as well, but it's going to be really important to have Avarice, Nemesis Bracers, Flavor of Time. Your follower cannot die, and Kane's Habit to get those extra G keys. That's all that we really care about here. You can run Oculus, you can run a Ring of the Royal Grandeur if you want to get more DBs, but you know, ultimately you're going to run out of resources to use with those DBs, so it's really up to you. But Kane's is 100% essential if you're running normal Torment Rifts, Avarice Band. You have to have it in this build. Nemesis and Flavor of Time, and follower cannot die, cannot go without, right? And so we're gonna get the cooldown reduction through Prophetic Harmony. Nothing else really matters. You can get the cheat death. The attack speed doesn't really help you here, so play around with that and just make sure you get your follower up to 25k main stats so you can get that full 10% cooldown reduction. Talking about the cube, we're going to use what's called Messerschmitt's Reaver, which every single time we kill an enemy, one of our cooldowns gets reduced by 1 second, and the only big cooldown we have on our bar is Army of the Dead, Dead Storm. So our minions are going to be attacking, ticking down the cooldown of this thing like crazy, and on top of that, we're proccing Messerschmitt's Reaver because we're killing a lot of things. So we're gonna have really good uptime on Army of the Dead as long as we have a decent amount of density. And you guys will notice there will be times where there won't be density. You know, you get bad rifts, and you know, you'll feel the effects. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. You know, like, again, this isn't the best torment farming build you ever played. This is just the best torment farming build for the Rathma set. In the cube, also we're using the Fate's Vow. This gives us unconventional warfare room for free, plus 250% additive Army of the Dead damage, which we simply cannot do without. Lastly, Ring of Royal Grandeur. This lets us wear 5-piece Rathma, 2-piece captains, and get that full 6-piece Rathma and 3-piece captains. Moving into the skills like we talked about already, Aura of Frailty, you know, the instant one shot at 15% health, plus it continuously grows with the interaction between Bane of Avarice and, of course, a Boon of the Hoarder, which we'll talk about in a minute. We're using Army of the Dead, Dead Storm. That's what the whole build's around. That's why it's called Dead Storm. It's just that death aura that goes around you. That Army of the Dead damage is how we do all of our damage in this build. We're also using Blood Rush. The rune doesn't really matter here. You can pick something like Hemostasis if you feel like you're taking too much damage. You can do Metabolism to get double charges, you know, for that additional mobility. Or you can use Potency to get the armor bonus should you feel like you need it in Torment. For Command Skeletons, we're using the Frenzy again. Like we said in the last video, Frenzy is going to be the best rune because if your command skeletons attack faster, that is more cooldown you're getting on Army of the Dead. So this is 100% the best rune without question. And then for the revive rune, we use Personal Army again. That 10% additional mitigation is no slouch. And basically none of the other runes are going to be any good unless you're running like a Nair's Black Death in the cube, which we're not here. Lastly, Bone Armor with Harvest of Anguish. Now, this one I want to talk about real quick because one, this gives us a bit more mobility, right? We cannot fit Stewart's Grease into the build, but having Bone Armor, a Harvest of Anguish, and having a giant pack around you, because again, you suck all mobs into you. So you want to make sure once they all get sucked into you, you hit that Bone Armor and have a ton of minions around you, bad guys around you, so you get that maximum potential from Bone Armor, Harvest of Anguish. Now, if this is early season, you're probably going to need to run Dislocation. Just for the damage you're going to get from proccing 3-time bonus on the Chrisman sentence. Because again, we're actually not even proccing 3 times Chrisman in this setup, and we don't need to. That just 100% from Chrisman sentence and 100% from Bonds of Selena is enough to kill Torment. But again, if you are falling short early season because, you know, gear's not going to be good, you won't have a ton of main stat, you're probably going to want to put in Dislocation and just move a little bit slower and then pop that Dislocation on stuff like Elite to get that triple bonus. For passives, we are running Dark Reaping. This is the only way to get Essence back in the build. We are not running Devour. So getting kills, which we do a lot of, will give you Essence and life. We're also running Blood is Power, no brainer. You know, if we get hit, and we will, And every single time we cast Blood Rush and we're self-damaging, it is going to regenerate 20% cooldown reduction as soon as we hit that 100% life threshold. We're also running Grizzly Tribute. You know, our minions are attacking all the time, so might as well get some healing there. There's not a lot of great passive choices here. You could drop Grizzly Tribute for Final Service if you feel like you're dying. And then lastly, Fueled by Death. This is a Torment farming build, so Fueled by Death is really good. We want to try to get more mobility, more movement speed, so must have here. For legendary gems, like we said, we're gonna use Bane the Powerful. It's the first gem you can possibly get every season. Really easy to keep this going in a torment farming setup. Goguk has some uptime issues, especially in bad density, which you do get a decent amount of bad density inside of normal torment rifts. So Bane the Powerful is just the better choice. Bane the Trapped is super important in this build, actually, because of the secondary effect, which you gain an aura that reduces the movement speed of enemies within 15 yards. So every enemy within 15 yards, which will happen because they're going to get sucked into you due to Brick's Wrath, will get that movement speed reduction, which procs the first piece of Crispin Sends, right? So you deal 100% increased damage to slowed enemies. And lastly, and probably most importantly, we are using that Boon of the Hoarder, 100% chance in killing an enemy to cause an explosion of gold. Gold is pretty nice. Obviously in torment farming builds, and it helps you, empower more rifts, reroll items and stuff like that. So more gold, more good. But more importantly, it has that synergy with the Avarice Band that is on your follower. And of course, Aura Frailty's radius will continue to grow as you proc more Avarice Band. And the bigger your Aura Frailty is, the more mobs will get sucked into you and the faster your clears will be. As far as playstyle, again, guys, there's really not much to this one, right? So you're all about your aura. So you're gonna make sure as soon as you jump in the rift, you've got your revive minions up with that first pack that you kill. Make sure you got 10 of those bad boys up here on your buff bar. Once you have the 10 guys up, you're literally just making sure you command skeleton everything that you see. Basically, you want to keep command skeletons up all the time, and of course, be more precise. If it's something like an elite pack, you want to make sure you command skeleton in the yellow, because look at that triple damage bonus by being commanded, right? So you want to use a little bit of precision with the command skeletons, but at the end of the day, it is just torment, so it's not a huge deal. But you'll find that if you're just a bit more precise, if you think about your clicks of command skeletons just a little bit more, you'll have faster clears all around. And that's pretty much it. You want to bone armor Harvest of Anguish on big packs to get more movement speed. Blood Rush, to give you that increased mobility, or to get out of explosions and stuff like that. You are not immune to explosions, so don't stand in them. It's really basic. It kind of plays pretty lazy. I know a lot of you guys have been wanting a play style like this for a while. So ultimately you're just walking to the rift and killing everything that touches you or gets in that red circle of blood. So I hope you guys enjoy that. But super quick, super simple build. This is just for torment farming. This is not for GRs. And again, there are better torment farming builds for the Necro, but there are not better torment farming builds for the Rathma. And I wanted to make sure you guys had an option, because this is the starting set for season 23. And again, if you want more torment farming builds, join the Discord. You can find the Discord channel in the links below. And again, we have a channel right here on the left side. It says Necro Guides, and we keep this entire list of builds up to date every season. So you click on one of the links and it says Ice Spirit. It might take you to the video, but guys, keep in mind, the videos might be slightly out of date, but what I do every single season is I update the written guide. So just scroll down, go to the written guide, and follow along there, and it's all updated. I do it every season. So that's pretty much all there's to it. If you guys like the videos, again, as always, do what you want to support the channel, either subscribing on Twitch or supporting me on Patreon, or just coming out and hanging out and lurking, whatever you want to do, whatever you guys are comfortable with. I will be blasting season 23 on a Rathma Necromancer, so if you guys want to see all these builds in action, do stop by the channel. But as always, guys, like, subscribe, come over to Twitch, ask your questions. We love you guys. Peace out.